everyone, welcome back to Diving Deeper into the Bible. Today we'll be reading John chapter 2 verses 13 to 25. Let's take a look at the passage first. First, we are going to start with about God. In this passage, we can see another way that Jesus was indirectly identifying himself as. Can you spot it? It is in John chapter 2 verse 16. It says, "And he told those who sold the pigeons, 'Take these things away. Do not make my Father's house a house of trade.'" Through this, we can indirectly see that Jesus is the Son of God. Okay, let's move on. Next, we can see one in John chapter 2 verses 21 to 22. It says, "But he was speaking about the temple of his body. When therefore he was raised from the dead, his disciples remembered that he had said this, and they believed the scripture and the word that Jesus had spoken." Through this, we can see that Jesus was raised from the dead 3 days later. Because of this, we celebrate Good Friday and Easter. Good Friday was the day that Jesus died, and Easter was the day that he rose again. Next, we can see one in John chapter 2 verse 25. It says, "And needed no one to bear witness about man, for he himself knew what was in man." The he in this verse is Jesus. This shows us that Jesus knows what is in man. After all, he is the creator. Okay, let's move on. Wait, there's one in verse 17 that we missed out. It says, "His disciples remembered that it was written, 'Zeal for your house will consume me.'" This shows us that Jesus is zealous about the house of God. Zealous means passionate. Okay, now we can move on. Next is as for sin. Firstly, we can see one in John chapter 2 verse 14. It says, "In the temple he found those who were selling oxen and sheep and pigeons, and the money changers sitting there." This shows us that the people were using the temple to satisfy their own greed and desire. Sometimes we are like that. We don't focus on God. Instead, we focus on our own desire and we feed our greed. But that's definitely not something that we want to do. I hope we are not like this little pig here who's focusing on his shopping list. Let's all focus on God. Okay, let's move on to P for Promise. I think this passage has no promise. Okay, let's write it down. Let's move on to E for example. You can see one in verse 14. Since it's repeating, I'm not going to read it again. But through this verse, I think that we can see the bad example of people who are misusing the temple, house of God. It's the same as the sin. Okay, next is C for command. We can see a command in verse 16 that Jesus told the people, and he told those who sold the pigeons, "Take these things away. Do not make my Father's house a house of trade." This verse is a command by Jesus to those who are misusing the temple. Okay, let's move on to teaching. Something very important from this passage, I think, was from verse 20 to 22. It says, "The Jews then said, 'It has taken 46 years to build this temple, and will you raise it up in 3 days?' But he," referring to Jesus, "was speaking about the temple of his body. When therefore he was raised from the dead, his disciples remembered that he had said this, and they believed the scripture and the word that Jesus had spoken." The fact that Jesus was born to die on the cross and rise on the third day makes me feel very loved. The purpose of Jesus' life on this earth was to die. Can you imagine that? Born to die? Yet, God allowed Jesus to do that just because He loves us so much and He wants us to be reunited with Him. And I think that's amazing. Alright, so that's all for this week's Aspect Bible Study.